Hey guys, tonight we're diving into the life of a man whose name still echoes through the annals of time. A figure so colossal, so utterly dominant, that to simply call him a king feels like an understatement. We're talking about Alexander the Great. And let me tell you, his life wasn't some leisurely stroll through a sun-drenched vineyard. Oh no, this was a brutal, relentless odyssey, filled with ambition that bordered on madness, battles that defied all logic, and a thirst for conquest that could only be quenched by, well, pretty much the entire known world. You're about to step into a world where survival was a daily gamble, where loyalty was a luxury, and where the closest thing to a spa day involved a very cold dip in a river after a particularly gruesome battle. Frankly, if you were there, you probably wouldn't make it to lunchtime. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes not to a gentle alarm, but to the stifling heat of Pella, the bustling capital of Macedon. The year is 356 BC, and the air is thick with the scent of olive oil, sweat, and the distant clang of the blacksmith's hammer. You are Alexander, and your first breath is a gasp in a world steeped in conflict and prophecy. Your father. King Philip II is a force of nature, a brilliant military strategist who has spent his life forging Macedon from a fractured collection of tribes into a formidable power. He's a man of grand ambitions, and his shadow looms large over your crib. You hear the hushed whispers of your nurses, their voices a soft, rhythmic lullaby. They speak of omens, of a dream your mother, Olympias, had on the eve of your birth, a thunderbolt striking her womb, igniting a great fire that spread across the land before dying out. A chilling vision, perhaps, but one that already hints at the extraordinary path laid out before you. Your mother, Olympias, is a woman of fierce intellect and even fiercer devotion. A princess from Epirus, a land known for its mystical practices and untamed spirit. She's a devotee of the Dionysian cult, a worshipper of snakes, and a formidable influence on your formative years. You remember the way she'd look at you, her eyes intense, as if seeing not just a child, but a destiny. She'd whisper tales of your divine lineage, hinting that your true father was none other than Zeus himself, the king of the gods. This isn't just a mother's fanciful tale, it's a carefully crafted narrative, designed to imbue you with an unshakable sense of purpose and a belief in your own exceptionalism. You are not merely a prince, you are a demigod, destined for greatness. This belief will become a powerful fuel for your future conquest, a driving force that allows you to push past the limits of what others deem possible. As you grow, your days are structured by the rigorous demands of royal life. You are not a child to be coddled. Instead, your tutors, a succession of stern, learned men, begin the arduous task of molding your mind. You learn history, poetry, rhetoric, and the art of war. Every lesson is imbued with a sense of urgency, a constant reminder that you are being prepared for a future of immense responsibility. You spend hours memorizing the epics of Homer, particularly the Iliad, and the exploits of Achilles become your earliest obsession. You see yourself in the swift, courageous warrior, and his thirst for glory ignites a similar fire within you. You understand that true immortality lies not in a long life, but in a legendary one. This is a common historical truth for many ambitious leaders throughout time. The desire for an enduring legacy often overshadows the desire for simple longevity. Your childhood is not without its moments of raw, unvarnished reality. You witness firsthand the brutal politicking of the Macedonian court, Your father, Philip, is a master manipulator, capable of both immense charm and ruthless brutality. You see the constant jockeying for power, the whispered conspiracies, the swift and often violent consequences for those who displease the king. It's a harsh education, one that teaches you to trust sparingly and to anticipate betrayal. You learn to read faces, to discern subtle shifts in loyalty, and to understand the intricate dance of power that governs your world. This is a detail often overlooked in the romanticized versions of your story. Your childhood was not idyllic, but a crucible. One particular incident stands out in your memory. A defining moment that showcases your innate leadership and fierce determination. The taming of Bucephalus. This magnificent, wild stallion. So powerful and untamed that no one could ride him. Terrified all who approached. Your father, frustrated, was about to send him away. But you, a mere boy, observed that the horse was afraid of his own shadow. You calmly turned the horse to face the sun, spoke to him gently, and then, with an astonishing display of courage and skill, mounted him. The crowd erupted in cheers. And your father, for once, was speechless, tears of pride in his eyes. "My boy," he declared, "you must find a kingdom large enough for your ambitions. Macedon is too small for you." This wasn't just a sweet story for a children's book. It was a public declaration of your exceptionalism. A moment that solidified your reputation and gave tangible form to the prophecies surrounding your birth. It's a classic example of how even small, seemingly isolated events can become powerful symbols, shaping perceptions and fueling narratives. Your bond with your mother is deep, almost unnervingly so, and it stands in stark contrast to your often strained relationship with your father. Philip, for all his brilliance, is a man of many marriages and even more mistresses. Olympia's, fiercely protective of your claim to the throne, views each new wife and each potential half-sibling as a threat. You often find yourself caught in the middle of their bitter quarrels, feeling the tension ripple through the palace. This familial discord, the constant undercurrent of suspicion and rivalry, will subtly shape your own approach to relationships and loyalty as you mature. You learn to be wary, to look for hidden motives, a skill that will serve you both well and poorly in the years to come. Historians still debate whether Olympias truly manipulated events to secure your path to power, or if her actions were simply a desperate attempt to protect her son in a cutthroat world. As you approach your teenage years, your formal education takes a monumental turn. Your father, recognizing your burgeoning intellect and boundless energy, seeks out the finest mind in the Greek world to be your tutor. He brings Aristotle, the renowned philosopher, to Pella. For 3 years, you sit at the feet of this intellectual giant, absorbing knowledge like a sponge. You study ethics, politics, natural science, medicine, and philosophy. Aristotle instills in you a deep appreciation for Greek culture, a love of learning, and a rigorous approach to logic and reasoning. He doesn't just teach you facts, he teaches you how to think. You discuss the nature of justice, the ideal state, and the proper way to govern. This intellectual foundation, coupled with your military training, makes you a truly formidable individual, capable of both deep contemplation and decisive action. Imagine sitting there, a young prince, listening to one of the greatest minds in history lecture on everything from the stars to the smallest insect. It's like having the entire internet poured directly into your brain, but with the added bonus of personal. Socratic dialogue, your military training, though less formal than your philosophical studies, is equally intense. You accompany your father on campaigns, observing his tactics, learning the art of siege warfare, and understanding the logistics of moving and supplying a massive army. You learn to ride, to fight with various weapons, and to endure the hardships of campaigning. You see the raw brutality of battle firsthand. The fear, the courage, the chaos, and the cold. Hard reality of death. You witness your father's cunning strategies, his ability to inspire loyalty, and his ruthless efficiency in crushing his enemies. This hands-on experience, coupled with Aristotle's teachings on strategy and leadership, provides you with an unparalleled education in both theory and practice. You are being forged in a crucible of both intellect and violence. One common misconception is that your father was simply a background figure. The truth is, he was a revolutionary. Philip transformed the Macedonian army, creating the formidable phalanx with its sarissas. Long, terrifying pikes that could hold an enemy at bay. He developed new siege engines and perfected combined arms tactics, integrating cavalry, light infantry, and archers into a cohesive, deadly force. You don't just inherit an army, you inherit a finely tuned, well-oiled war machine, a testament to your father's genius. This isn't just history, it's a blueprint for conquest, a detail many gloss over when talking about your meteoric rise. Your relationship with Philip, however, remains complex. He is proud of your accomplishments, but also wary of your growing ambition. You are a threat, a potential rival, even to your own father. You observe his triumphs, but also his flaws, his heavy drinking, his volatile temper, his womanizing. You see the physical scars of his countless battles, the eye he lost to an arrow, the limp he acquired from a wound. He is a testament to both the glory and the grueling reality of warfare. There's a particular tension when Philip, in his later years, marries Cleopatra Eurydice, a young Macedonian noblewoman, who subsequently gives birth to a son. This instantly creates a new potential heir, a purely Macedonian heir, threatening your position as the rightful successor. You feel the ground shifting beneath your feet. The precariousness of your future suddenly brought into sharp focus. The incident at the wedding feast, where Attalus, Cleopatra's uncle, drunkenly proposes a toast for a legitimate heir, leads to a furious confrontation between you and your father, culminating in Philip lunging at you with a sword before stumbling and falling. "Look, men," you exclaim. "This is the man who is preparing to cross from Europe to Asia, and he cannot even cross from one couch to another without falling." It's a moment of both defiance and desperation, a public display of the deep rift between father and son. This period of your life is a constant tightrope walk. You are a prince, yet your position is not entirely secure. You are brilliant, yet your ambition is almost too vast for your current circumstances. You are loved by your mother, yet constantly vying for your father's full approval, or at least his unwavering support. You are learning, observing, growing, and all the while, the wheels of destiny are turning, preparing you for the moment when you will step out of your father's shadow and claim your own, much larger, place in history. The stage is being set for a brutal, glorious, and ultimately tragic epic. And you, Alexander, are about to become its central, unstoppable force. You wake one morning to a chilling silence, a hush that permeates the very stones of the palace. Something is wrong. The usual bustle is replaced by hushed whispers and hurried footsteps. Then the news reaches you. A cold, hard blow your father. King Philip II is dead, assassinated. The details are murky, shrouded in suspicion and rumor. Some say it was a personal vendetta. Others whisper of Persian plots. And still more cast a questioning glance toward your mother. Olympias, whose relief, if not outright joy, is barely concealed. Regardless of the truth, your world has irrevocably shifted. The man who cast such a long shadow over your life is gone. And suddenly, that shadow falls directly upon you. You are now king of Macedon. But your inheritance is not a tranquil kingdom. Macedon, though powerful, is volatile. The Greek city-states, always chafing under Macedonian dominance, see Philip's death as an opportunity to reclaim their independence. To them, you are merely a young, untested ruler, a boy who can be easily dismissed. The barbarian tribes in your northern borders, sensing weakness, stir with renewed aggression, and within your own court, rivals and pretenders, many of whom secretly despised your father, now eye your throne with hungry ambition. This is not a coronation, it's a trial by fire. You are thrust into leadership with no gentle transition. No grace period. You must act decisively or lose everything. Your immediate challenge is to consolidate power. The first order of business is to eliminate any potential threats to your reign. You move swiftly and ruthlessly. Those who might claim the throne, those with ties to Philip's last wife Cleopatra Eurydice, and anyone suspected of disloyalty. Meet a swift end. It's a brutal purge, but one you view as necessary for stability. You understand that in this world. Weakness is an invitation to destruction. This isn't a game, it's survival. This is a common theme in history, the often bloody transition of power, where new rulers must quickly establish their authority. The methods might seem harsh to a modern sensibility, but in the ancient world, it was often the only way to secure a fledgling reign, with your internal affairs somewhat settled. Your gaze turns outward. The Greek city-states are already in open revolt. Athens, Thebes, and others, emboldened by Philip's demise, are forming alliances and preparing for war. They believe you lack your father's strategic genius, his military prowess. They couldn't be more wrong. You, Alexander, are not content to merely defend your kingdom. You intend to expand it. You understand that true power lies not in reaction, but in proactive, overwhelming force. You gather your army, the very same veterans who fought under your father, now loyal to you. The Macedonian phalanx, with its bristling sarissas, is an almost unstoppable force, a truly innovative military formation for its time. You lead your troops southward, a whirlwind of speed and aggression. Your first target is Thebes, a city that has always been a thorn in Macedon's side, fiercely independent and rebellious. The Thebans, confident in their fortified walls and their reputation for military strength, refuse to surrender. They underestimate your resolve, and crucially, your speed. You cover ground at an astonishing pace. Catching them off guard, the siege of Thebes is a brutal, bloody affair. You offer terms of surrender, but they are defiantly refused. You give the order to storm the city. The fighting is savage. House to house. Hand to hand. The Thebans fight with the desperation of those defending their homes. But your disciplined phalanx, combined with your expert use of cavalry and siege engines, is overwhelming. When the city finally falls, you make an example of it. Thebes is utterly destroyed. Its buildings razed to the ground, its population enslaved. With the exception of the temples and the house of the poet Pindar, a testament to your respect for culture, even amidst destruction. This act serves as a chilling warning to the other Greek city-states: defy Alexander and face annihilation. It is a harsh, indelible lesson, and it works. The other cities, terrified, quickly reaffirm their allegiance to Macedon. The rebellion is crushed, and your authority over Greece is cemented. This brutal act is one of the most controversial aspects of your early reign, and it highlights a ruthless pragmatism that would define much of your conquests. With Greece pacified, your sights turn eastward, towards the vast and wealthy Persian Empire. This isn't just a matter of conquest, it's a deeply ingrained family ambition, a legacy passed down from your father. Philip had already laid the groundwork for an invasion, framing it as a pan-Hellenic crusade, a war of revenge for the Persian invasions of Greece a century and a half earlier. You embrace this narrative, but your vision is far grander than mere revenge. You dream of uniting East and West, of creating an empire unlike any the world has ever seen. You are not just a king, you are a liberator, a bringer of Hellenic civilization to the barbarian lands of Asia, or so you tell yourself, and those who follow you. In 334 BC, you lead your army across the Hellespont, the narrow strait separating Europe from Asia. It's a moment pregnant with symbolism. You leap ashore first, planting your spear in Asian soil, declaring that you accept Asia as a gift from the gods. You make a pilgrimage to Troy, the legendary city of Achilles. Your hero. You offer sacrifices. Run naked around Achilles' tomb, and proclaim yourself a descendant of the hero. This isn't just a historical anecdote, it's brilliant propaganda. Designed to inspire your troops and solidify your divine mandate, you are not just leading an army, you are leading a new Trojan War, with yourself as the new Achilles, destined for even greater glory. Your army is relatively small compared to the vast resources of the Persian Empire, but it is highly disciplined, well-trained, and fiercely loyal. You have approximately 32,000 infantry and 5,000 cavalry, a combined arms force perfected by your father. Your generals are seasoned veterans, men like Parmenion, Craterus, and Hephaestion. Men who have fought alongside Philip and now serve you with unwavering dedication. You have also brought along engineers, surveyors, historians, and even scientists, intending not just to conquer, but to explore and understand the lands you overrun. This foresight, bringing scholars and scientists, is a lesser-known detail about your campaigns, highlighting a thirst for knowledge that went beyond mere military might. Your first major confrontation with the Persians occurs at the Granicus River. The Persian satraps, local governors and commanders, have assembled their forces, primarily made up of cavalry and Greek mercenaries. They position themselves on the high bank of the river, confident in their superior numbers and advantageous position. You, however, are renowned for your daring and impetuosity. Against the advice of some of your generals, you order an immediate attack. You lead the charge yourself. Riding into the river, a chaotic melee of horsemen and infantry, it's a desperate, brutal fight. You are almost killed, saved only by the quick actions of your bodyguards. But your ferocity and the discipline of your troops carry the day. The Persian cavalry is routed, and the Greek mercenaries, abandoned by their employers, are cut down without mercy. The Battle of Granicus is a stunning victory, a psychological blow to the Persians, and a clear signal that you are not to be underestimated. This quick, decisive win at the outset of the campaign was crucial for building momentum and morale. After Granicus, you march south, liberating the Greek cities along the coast of Asia Minor from Persian rule. You are welcomed as a liberator in many places, a fulfillment of the Pan-Hellenic Crusade. You skillfully manage public perception, portraying yourself not as a conqueror, but as a restorer of freedom. You dismantle the Persian administrative structures, replacing them with your own, often leaving local rulers in place. But under your authority, this pragmatic approach minimizes resistance and helps to secure your supply lines as you venture deeper into Persian territory. Your journey continues through Lycia and Pamphylia, then inland towards Gordium, a significant city. Here, you encounter the famous Gordian knot, a legendary knot that, according to prophecy, could only be untied by the future ruler of Asia. Many have tried and failed. You, however, don't waste time with intricate unraveling. You draw your sword and, with one swift stroke, cut the knot in half, famously declaring, "It makes no difference how they are loosed." This isn't just a clever solution, it's a powerful symbolic act. It shows your willingness to defy conventional wisdom, to forge your own path, and to achieve your goals through direct, decisive action, rather than convoluted means. It's a perfect story for the legend you are building around yourself. Historians still debate the exact wording of your declaration, but the essence remains you cut through the problem. Quite literally. The Persian king, Darius III, a proud and powerful ruler, begins to take you seriously. He gathers a massive army, far larger than yours, determined to crush this upstart Macedonian. The two armies finally meet at the Battle of Issus. Darius, confident in his overwhelming numbers, makes a critical mistake. Instead of choosing open terrain where his numerical superiority could be fully exploited, he draws up his forces in a narrow coastal plain, effectively negating his advantage. This is a common point of academic debate. Was Darius's tactical blunder a result of hubris, or a calculated, though ultimately flawed, attempt to outmaneuver you? You, with your brilliant tactical mind, see the opportunity immediately. You lead your companion cavalry, the elite heavy cavalry of your army, in a furious charge directly at the center of the Persian line. Aiming for Darius himself, it's a daring, almost suicidal move, but it pays off. The Persian line crumbles under the shock of your assault. Darius, fearing capture, flees the battlefield in his chariot, leaving his family, including his mother, wife, and daughters. Behind, the Persian army, leaderless and in disarray, breaks and flees. The victory at Issus is total and humiliating for Darius. You capture immense spoils, including Darius's family, whom you treat with unexpected deference and respect, a gesture that earns you admiration even among your enemies. This victory cements your reputation as an unstoppable force, capable of defeating even the largest and most powerful empires. The sheer scale of the Persian defeat, despite their numerical superiority, is a testament to your tactical genius and the discipline of your army. After Issus, instead of pursuing Darius directly, you turn your attention south, towards the wealthy Phoenician cities of the Levant, particularly the island city of Tyre. Tyre is a formidable fortress, an island stronghold protected by massive walls and a powerful navy. The Tyrians, confident in their defenses, refuse to submit. You, however, are not deterred by obstacles. You undertake one of the most audacious engineering feats of the ancient world. You order the construction of a massive causeway, a mole, stretching half a mile across the sea to the island. It's an almost impossible task, costing enormous resources and lives, and taking 7 months to complete. The Tyrians harass your builders with ships and catapults, but you relentlessly press forward. The siege of Tyre is a testament to your unyielding will and your army's incredible engineering capabilities. It's a slow, agonizing process. But when the causeway is finally completed and your siege engines brought to bear, the city falls. You show no mercy to the Tyrians for their stubborn resistance. Crucifying thousands and enslaving the rest, this stark brutality stands in contrast to your treatment of Darius's family, highlighting the dual nature of your character, capable of both magnanimity and chilling ruthlessness. From Tyre, you continue south into Egypt. The Egyptians, weary of Persian rule, welcome you as a liberator. You are not just a conqueror, you are seen as a divine figure, a pharaoh sent by the gods to free them from oppression. You travel to the Oracle of Amun at Siwa Oasis, a remote and sacred site in the desert. What transpired there remains a mystery, but it is widely believed that the oracle confirmed your divine parentage, declaring you the son of Amun-Ra, the supreme Egyptian deity. This affirmation further solidifies your belief in your own divinity and reinforces your messianic image among your followers. You establish the city of Alexandria at the mouth of the Nile, a city destined to become a great center of learning and commerce, a lasting monument to your vision and legacy. This act of founding a city, particularly one that would flourish for centuries, demonstrates a vision that extended beyond mere military conquest. You were building something new? Your time in Egypt is a brief respite, a moment of consolidation before the inevitable confrontation with Darius. The Persian king, having regrouped and raised another massive army, is waiting. The decisive battle, the one that will determine the fate of the Persian Empire, is yet to come. You have proven your military genius, your strategic brilliance, and your unyielding determination. But the sheer scale of the Persian Empire, its vast resources, and the unwavering resolve of its desperate king still present a formidable challenge. You are poised on the brink of an epic clash, a showdown that will forever alter the course of history. The road ahead is long, and the challenges are immense. But you, Alexander, are ready. You stand at the threshold of a vast plain, the dust of your relentless march caking your armor, stinging your eyes. This is Mesopotamia, the ancient cradle of civilization, and before you lies the largest army you have ever faced. It's 331 BC, and the plains of Gaugamela stretch out, seemingly endless. Under the scorching sun, Darius the III, having learned from his previous blunders, has meticulously chosen this battlefield. He's cleared and leveled the ground to allow his vast array of chariots and cavalry to operate at full effect. He has assembled a truly colossal force, a multi-ethnic array of warriors from across his sprawling empire immortals, chariots with scythes on their wheels, war elephants, and cavalry from every corner of Asia. The sheer scale of his army is designed to intimidate, to crush you under the weight of numbers. As night falls, you survey the enemy camp from a distance. Thousands upon thousands of campfires twinkle in the darkness, stretching as far as the eye can see. The murmurs of their vast host drift across the plain, a low hum of anticipation. Your own army, though far smaller, is a hardened, battle-tested force, composed of veterans who have conquered Greece and humiliated the Persians twice before. Your generals, Parmenion, Craterus, Perdiccas, and the others, gather around you. Parmenion, your most experienced general, suggests a night attack, arguing that it would sow confusion among the Persians. It's a tempting idea, a way to negate their numerical advantage. But you, Alexander, reject it. You refuse to steal a victory. You want to defeat Darius in a fair, decisive battle, to prove your superiority not just through cunning, but through skill and courage. I will not steal victory like a thief, you declare. I will win it openly. How? This moment, often recounted by your historians, highlights your profound confidence, bordering on hubris, and your desire for an unambiguous, glorious triumph. This is a subtle point that many overlook. Your pursuit of absolute victory often trumped cautious strategy before the dawn. You address your troops. Your voice, though perhaps hoarse from days of marching, resonates with unwavering conviction. You remind them of their past victories, of the glory that awaits them, and of the immense wealth that will be theirs. You speak of the Pan-Hellenic Crusade, of avenging past wrongs and of spreading Hellenic civilization. You appeal to their loyalty, their courage, and their shared destiny. Your words ignite a fire in their hearts, transforming tired soldiers into eager warriors, ready to face whatever awaits them. You are a master orator, able to inspire men to acts of incredible bravery. This ability to motivate and connect with your soldiers is a key reason for your success. As the sun rises on October 1st, 331 BC, the two armies array themselves for battle. Darius places himself in the center of his line, surrounded by his elite units. He has even deployed concealed stakes in the ground to disrupt your cavalry charges. You, meanwhile, position your formidable companion cavalry, led by yourself, on your right flank. With the Hypaspis elite foot guards and sections of the phalanx close behind, your phalanx forms a solid wall of pikes in the center. While your light cavalry and javelin throwers protect your flanks, it's a classic deployment, perfected by your father, but with your own subtle innovations. You use an oblique formation, extending your right wing forward, drawing the Persian cavalry wider, away from their main body. The battle begins with a thundering charge of Persian scythed chariots, designed to rip through your formations. But your disciplined phalanx opens its ranks, allowing the chariots to pass through, then closing in, trapping and destroying them. It's a brilliant maneuver, showing the flexibility and discipline of your infantry. This counter-tactic, where the phalanx acted like a living trap, was a testament to both your training and your quick thinking on the battlefield. Many chariots, their drivers panicking, simply turn and flee back into their own lines, causing chaos. Then comes your moment. You see a gap, a momentary weakness in the Persian center, created by your feigned retreat on the right flank. This is your characteristic move, your audacious gambit. You lead the companion cavalry in a wedge formation, driving directly for Darius. It's a head-on charge into the heart of the enemy, a move of breathtaking courage and immense risk. Your cavalry crashes into the Persian line, shattering their cohesion. The fighting is furious, a desperate struggle amidst a whirlwind of dust, steel, and cries of battle. You are fighting for your life, pushing relentlessly towards the Persian king, Darius. Seeing your relentless charge and the collapse of his center, loses his nerve. He turns his chariot and flees the battlefield, just as he did at Issus. The sight of their king abandoning them breaks the morale of the Persian army. What had been an orderly, if desperate, fight quickly devolves into a rout. Thousands of Persian soldiers throw down their weapons and flee in terror, trampled by their own retreating comrades. The battle is a complete and utter victory. The Persian Empire, in essence, ceases to exist as a unified entity after Gaugamela. This is often considered your finest military achievement, a masterpiece of tactical brilliance against overwhelming odds. The defeat of Darius at Gaugamela is a historical fact that resonates even today, marking a significant turning point in ancient history. However, the battle isn't without its complications. While you are pursuing Darius, a dangerous situation unfolds on your left flank. Parmenian's wing is heavily engaged and is almost overrun by Persian cavalry. He sends desperate pleas for help. You, however, are too far engaged in the pursuit to immediately assist. This particular detail, Parmenian's struggles on the left flank, is a point of academic debate among historians. Some argue it shows your over-reliance on your own direct leadership, while others see it as a necessary risk for securing the decisive victory. It's a messy part of an otherwise brilliant victory. Ultimately, Parmenion manages to hold his ground, and the Persian cavalry, seeing their king flee and their center collapse, eventually withdraws. With the victory at Gaugamela, the path to the heart of the Persian Empire lies open. You march on Babylon, one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. The city surrenders without a fight. Welcoming you as a liberator, you enter Babylon triumphantly, fulfilling ancient prophecies, and are received with awe and reverence. You restore the temples, show respect for local customs, and appoint a Persian satrap to govern, demonstrating your pragmatic approach to imperial administration. You understand that conquest is one thing, governing is another entirely. This relatively peaceful takeover of Babylon shows a different side of your character, one capable of diplomacy and careful administration rather than just brutal force. From Babylon, you march on to Susa, another of the Persian capitals, famed for its immense wealth. The city, like Babylon, surrenders peacefully. Here, you seize vast treasures, accumulated over centuries by the Persian kings. Gold, silver, precious stones, and silks, the spoils of empire, are truly staggering. The sheer amount of wealth you now command is almost beyond comprehension. This influx of riches will be crucial for funding your ongoing campaigns and maintaining your army. It's also where you send back an enormous portion of the treasure to Macedon and Greece, fulfilling your promise to your soldiers and solidifying your popularity back home. Next, you set your sights on Persepolis, the ceremonial capital of the Persian Empire, the symbolic heart of their power. This is not just a city, it is the ultimate symbol of Persian imperial might, a place filled with magnificent palaces, grand staircases, and intricate carvings that proclaim the glory of the Achaemenid kings. Unlike Babylon and Susa, Persepolis doesn't surrender meekly. There is resistance. Though ultimately futile, your army enters the city, and what follows is one of the most controversial events of your reign, the burning of the palace of Xerxes. The traditional narrative is that you, perhaps fueled by drink and urged on by the courtesan Thais, set fire to the palace as an act of revenge for the Persian burning of Athens during the Greco-Persian Wars. It's a dramatic image, a symbolic act of retribution. However, the exact motivations and circumstances remain a point of academic dispute. Some historians argue it was a calculated political act, a clear signal that the old Persian order was dead. Others suggest it was a drunken rampage, a moment of uncontrolled fury. Whatever the reason, the site of Persepolis, the magnificent heart of the Persian Empire, engulfed in flames, sends a powerful message across the known world: the old order has truly fallen, and a new one has begun. This act, while symbolic, also represents a destructive side of your conquest that you would later come to regret, or at least reflect upon differently. With the destruction of Persepolis, you have effectively dismantled the administrative and symbolic core of the Persian Empire. Darius III, however, is still at large. A king without a kingdom, but still a potent symbol of resistance. You embark on a relentless pursuit of Darius, pushing your army through harsh terrain and extreme weather conditions. You are driven by a singular purpose: to capture Darius, to solidify your claim as the new great king, and to prevent any resurgence of Persian power. This pursuit is grueling, a test of endurance for both you and your men. You march through deserts, cross mountains, and endure extreme heat and cold. Your soldiers, though loyal, are growing weary, their complaints beginning to surface. They miss home. They long for rest. And the endless pursuit of a phantom king seems increasingly pointless. During this grueling chase, you discover that Darius has been betrayed and murdered by his own satrap, Bessus. This news is a mixed blessing. On one hand, your main rival is gone, eliminating the focal point of Persian resistance. On the other hand, you are denied the satisfaction of capturing him yourself, of dictating terms, of publicly demonstrating your complete supremacy. You treat Darius's body with respect, sending it back for a proper royal burial. You then declare Bessus a usurper and pursue him relentlessly, determined to punish him for his treachery and to assert your authority as the legitimate successor to the Persian throne. This pursuit of Bessus, though less grand than the hunt for Darius, is a clear signal that you will tolerate no challenge to your newfound power. Your relentless pursuit of Bessus leads you into the eastern provinces of the former Persian Empire, into lands that are largely unknown to the Greeks: Hyrcania, Parthia, Aria, Drongiana, Arachosia, Bactria, and Sogdiana. These are wild, untamed regions, inhabited by fierce, independent tribes who have little respect for kings or empires. The landscape changes dramatically, from vast deserts to towering mountain ranges. Your army, accustomed to the structured warfare of the West, faces a new kind of enemy: agile, elusive guerrillas who strike and fade away, using the terrain to their advantage. This marks a significant shift in your campaigns, moving from pitched battles against organized armies to protracted counterinsurgency warfare. The campaigns in these eastern satrapies are some of the most difficult and brutal of your entire career. Your soldiers are constantly harassed, ambushed, and exhausted. You engage in numerous skirmishes and sieges, capturing fortified towns and mountain strongholds. You display incredible personal courage, often leading from the front, exposing yourself to great danger. You are wounded multiple times, sustaining arrows, spears, and sword cuts. Your determination is absolute, but the cost in lives and resources is immense. This period of fighting, far from the dramatic clashes of Gaugamela or Issus, truly showcases the brutal, grinding reality of sustained conquest. It's not just about grand battles, it's about endless marching, constant vigilance, and the harsh realities of logistics and unforgiving terrain. It is during these eastern campaigns that your character begins to change. The endless victories, the immense power, and the belief in your own divinity start to affect you. You adopt Persian customs, wearing Persian dress, incorporating Persian nobles into your court, and even introducing the Persian ritual of proskynesis, prostration before the king, a practice deeply offensive to your Macedonian and Greek companions, who view it as fit only for gods, not for mortal men. This cultural assimilation, while perhaps a pragmatic way to govern your new subjects, causes growing resentment and suspicion among your loyal Greek and Macedonian officers. They see it as a betrayal of their Hellenic identity, a move away from the values they fought to uphold. This growing rift between you and your trusted companions becomes a pervasive undercurrent of your later campaigns. The resentment culminates in several dramatic confrontations. Philotas, one of your senior generals and the son of Parmenion, is implicated in a conspiracy against you. You order his arrest, and he is tortured and executed. Then, chillingly, you order the assassination of his father. Parmenion, your most experienced and loyal general, who is serving far away in Ecbatana. This act, the killing of a loyal servant and his son on suspicion, sends a shiver of fear through your court. It shows a darker, more paranoid side of your rule, a willingness to eliminate any perceived threat, no matter how loyal their past service. This event is a stark reminder that even the most loyal companions were not safe from your suspicions and wrath. The most famous, and perhaps most tragic, incident occurs at a feast in Marikonda, modern Samarkand. You, in a fit of drunken rage, argue with Clytus the Black, a longtime companion who had saved your life at the Granicus River. Clytus, emboldened by wine, criticizes your adoption of Persian customs and praises your father's achievements, suggesting you have forgotten your Macedonian roots. The argument escalates, words are exchanged, and in a sudden, furious outburst, you grab a spear and run Clytus through. The immediate regret, the deep remorse that follows is evident. You try to take your own life, restrained only by your bodyguards. This moment is a stark illustration of your volatile temper, your insecurity beneath the veneer of invincibility, and the tragic consequences of absolute power. It's a powerful narrative about the corrupting influence of power, a theme that resonates through history. Despite these internal struggles, your military campaigns in the East continue. You marry Roxana, the daughter of a Bactrian chieftain, a strategic alliance that helps to pacify the region and integrate the local elites into your empire. This marriage is also a powerful symbol of your policy of racial fusion, a vision of a unified empire where Greeks and Persians coexist and intermarry. It's a bold and revolutionary idea for the time, though one that is met with mixed reactions from your Macedonian soldiers. You also found numerous cities, all named Alexandria, scattering them across your vast new territories. Establishing centers of Hellenic culture and trade in the heart of Asia, these Alexandrias, far from being mere garrisons, were intended to be permanent outposts of Greek civilization. After years of relentless campaigning in the eastern satrapies, you finally capture and execute Bessus, bringing an end to the last major Persian resistance. The former Persian Empire is now truly under your control. But your ambition knows no bounds. You yearn to explore the ends of the earth, to conquer lands beyond the known world, to reach the mythical ocean that encircles the world. Your gaze turns towards India, this relentless drive for exploration and conquest, even beyond what seemed strategically necessary, sets you apart from many other conquerors. You stand at the edge of the Indus River, the air thick with humidity, the scent of exotic spices mingling with the dust of your marching army. It's 326 BC, and before you lies India, a land of legendary wealth, fearsome warriors, and strange, powerful beasts unlike anything your men have ever seen. Your journey here has been arduous, a grueling march through the treacherous Hindu Kush mountains, battling fierce mountain tribes and enduring unimaginable hardships. Your army is weary, their initial enthusiasm for endless conquest slowly giving way to homesickness and a growing apprehension about the unknown. But you, Alexander, are undeterred. Your thirst for discovery, for pushing the boundaries of the known world, burns brighter than ever. You have heard tales of India's riches, of its vast armies, and most importantly, of the great ocean that lies beyond. The mythical edge of the world. You are convinced that once you reach this ocean, your epic journey will be complete, fulfilling ancient prophecies and securing your place as the greatest conqueror in history. This relentless pursuit of the ends of the earth is a prime example of your almost fantastical ambition, a trait that both defined your greatness and eventually contributed to your downfall. Your first major challenge in India comes from the powerful Indian king, Porus, who rules the lands between the Hydaspes and Axasinas rivers. Porus is a formidable opponent, a giant of a man, renowned for his courage and his fearsome army, which includes hundreds of war elephants. These beasts are a terrifying prospect for your Macedonian cavalry, who have never faced such a weapon. The Hydaspes River itself is a significant obstacle, swollen by monsoon rains, making a direct crossing perilous under the watchful eyes of Porus's army on the opposite bank. You employ a masterful strategic deception. For days, you feign preparations for a direct crossing, moving your troops noisily along the bank, drawing Porus's attention. Meanwhile, under the cover of darkness and a torrential thunderstorm, you secretly march a significant portion of your army several miles upstream. Finding a hidden crossing point, it's a risky maneuver, demanding precise timing and exceptional discipline from your troops. This tactical brilliance, a hallmark of your military genius, is often overshadowed by your personal bravery, but it was equally crucial to your success. The Battle of the Hydaspes is one of your most challenging and hard-fought victories. As your troops cross the river, they are met by Porus's formidable forces. The war elephants, like living battering rams, cause panic among your cavalry and phalanx, crushing men and horses alike. It's a chaotic, brutal struggle. Your phalanx, however, demonstrates incredible resilience, using their sarissas to poke and prod the elephants, driving them into a frenzy that turns them against their own lines. Your cavalry, under the command of Craterus and Conus, skillfully maneuvers around the elephants. Engaging Porus's cavalry and ultimately encircling his infantry, you, as always, lead from the front, inspiring your men with your personal bravery. Despite suffering heavy casualties, your tactical superiority and the discipline of your army prevail. Porus, despite his valiant efforts, is defeated. He is brought before you, a proud and unbowed figure, wounded but defiant. You, impressed by his courage, ask him how he wishes to be treated. His response is legendary. Treat me, O Alexander, as a king. Your magnanimity shines through. You not only return his kingdom to him, but extend his territories, transforming him into a loyal ally rather than a subjugated foe. This act of clemency, though perhaps pragmatic, showcases your political shrewdness and your ability to gain loyal subjects even from vanquished enemies. This surprising generosity is a detail that often surprises those who only know your conquering persona. After the Battle of the Hydaspes, your army is utterly exhausted. The monsoon rains are relentless, turning the land into a muddy swamp. The stories of even larger, more powerful kingdoms further east, kingdoms with even more elephants and countless warriors, begin to circulate among your men. They have been campaigning for years, fighting endless battles, enduring unimaginable hardships, and are thousands of miles from home. They have seen enough. They want to go home. You, however, are still driven by your boundless ambition. By the desire to reach the ends of the earth, you try to persuade them, to motivate them with promises of further glory and wealth. You deliver passionate speeches, reminding them of their past victories, of the destiny that awaits them. But for the first time in your career, your words fall on deaf ears. Your veterans, led by Conus, openly defy you. They refuse to march further east. It's a moment of profound crisis, a direct challenge to your authority, and a devastating blow to your personal vision. The image of your invincible army finally saying no is a powerful one. This is a crucial turning point, a moment where the limits of your charismatic leadership are truly tested. You are furious, frustrated, and deeply disappointed. You withdraw to your tent for 3 days, refusing to eat, refusing to see anyone. You consider forcing them, but you know that a disaffected army is a dangerous one. Eventually, you acknowledge the inevitable. The army has reached its breaking point. You agree to turn back. It's a bitter pill to swallow, a concession that gnaws at your boundless ambition. But even you, Alexander, must bow to the collective will of your weary soldiers. This forced retreat, or rather, this decision not to advance, stands as a testament to the fact that even the greatest leaders are bound by the realities of their resources and the morale of their men. The journey back is almost as arduous as the conquest itself. You decide to return by a new route, through the arid, inhospitable lands of the Gedrosian Desert, along the coast. This is a monumental miscalculation, an act of stubbornness, perhaps even hubris. That cost your army dearly. The march through Gedrosia is a nightmare. Water is scarce, food is almost non-existent, and the scorching sun beats down relentlessly. Thousands of your soldiers, and even more camp followers and animals, perish from thirst, starvation, and exhaustion. It's a brutal, unnecessary ordeal, a tragic testament to your occasional disregard for the human cost of your grand visions. This is one of the darkest chapters of your campaign, a detail often downplayed in heroic retellings. Many historians still debate whether this was an intentional act of punishment for your army's disobedience, or simply a strategic misjudgment. During this grueling march, you, as always, share in the hardships of your men. When a small amount of water is brought to you in a helmet, you famously pour it onto the ground, refusing to drink when your men have none. This act, whether genuine or theatrical, reinforces your bond with your soldiers, showing that you are willing to suffer alongside them. It's a powerful moment of leadership, solidifying their loyalty even in the face of immense suffering. This kind of relatable, shared hardship is a quality often found in highly effective, though sometimes ruthless, leaders. As you finally emerge from the Gedrosian Desert, your army is a shadow of its former self, but it is intact. You return to Persia, to the heart of your vast empire, where you begin the process of consolidating your conquests and integrating your vast new territories. You find that many of your appointed satraps, left largely unsupervised during your long absence in India, have abused their power, embezzling funds and raising private armies. You move swiftly and decisively to rectify these abuses, executing corrupt officials and replacing them with loyal Macedonians and, increasingly, with trustworthy Persians. You are intent on establishing a stable and efficient administration for your sprawling empire. You continue to pursue your vision of a truly unified Greco-Persian empire. You encourage your soldiers to marry Persian women, even leading by example with your own marriage to Roxana. And then later, at the Susa weddings, arranging for thousands of your officers and soldiers to marry Persian noblewomen in a mass ceremony. This policy of racial fusion, though visionary for its time, is deeply unpopular with many of your Macedonian veterans, who view it as a dilution of their heritage and a betrayal of their cultural identity. They resent the increasing prominence of Persians in your court and army, and the introduction of what they perceive as foreign customs. This growing cultural divide is a significant source of friction within your inner circle. The friction manifests in various ways. You establish units of Persian youth trained in Macedonian military tactics, further angering your veterans who feel their unique identity is being eroded. The epigony, as these units are called, are a symbol of your long-term vision, but a source of immediate resentment. You also continue to adopt more Persian attire and court rituals, further alienating your old companions. The atmosphere around you becomes increasingly tense, punctuated by flashes of your volatile temper and moments of paranoia. One such incident occurs with your trusted general, Harpalus, who is left in charge of the royal treasury in Babylon. He embezzles a vast sum of money and flees to Athens, seeking refuge. This betrayal by a longtime companion is a bitter blow, reinforcing your growing distrust of those around you. It underscores the ever-present threat of betrayal that shadowed your reign, even amongst your closest confidants. This kind of internal corruption and defection is a common challenge for leaders of sprawling empires, a detail that often gets lost amidst the grand narratives of conquest. Despite these growing internal strains, you continue to plan for future campaigns. You envision a grand expedition to conquer Arabia, followed by campaigns against Carthage and Rome, stretching your empire even further west. Your ambition remains undimmed, your strategic mind constantly planning the next move, the next conquest. You are a man who cannot rest, who must always be pushing forward, always expanding. You arrive in Babylon, intending to make it the capital of your vast new empire. The city, with its ancient history and strategic location, is perfect for your grand plans. You begin work on ambitious building projects, including the restoration of the Asagala Temple and the construction of a massive harbor to accommodate a new fleet. You are planning for the long term, for the enduring legacy of your empire. But fate, as it often does, has other plans. The constant stress of campaigning, the numerous wounds you have sustained over the years, and your increasingly heavy drinking begin to take their toll on your body. You fall ill in Babylon, suddenly and severely. The nature of your illness remains a mystery, a subject of endless historical debate. Was it malaria, typhoid, West Nile virus, or perhaps even poisoning? As some rumors suggested, no one truly knows. Your condition rapidly deteriorates. Your generals gather around your bed, anxious and distraught. They ask you, "To whom do you leave your empire?" Your whispered response, barely audible, is chilling to the strongest. This fateful utterance will plunge your empire into decades of brutal civil war. The Wars of the Diadochi. As your generals fight savagely for control of your vast conquests, it's a final, ironic twist to a life dedicated to unity and order. As you lie dying, your breath growing shallow, you reflect on your life. You have conquered the known world, united East and West, and become a living legend. You have achieved more in 32 years than most rulers achieve in a lifetime. But at what cost? The vast empire you forged is about to fracture. The friendships you valued have been strained, some irrevocably broken. The relentless pursuit of glory has left a trail of immense suffering. both for your enemies and, at times, for your own men. Your life has been a relentless charge, a brutal, magnificent, and ultimately solitary journey. The whispers of your final moments fade, and the greatest conqueror the world has ever known slips away into the annals of history. The air in Babylon grows heavy, not with the dust of conquest, but with the suffocating silence of anticipation. It's June 323, BC, you, Alexander. Lie on your deathbed, your breath shallow, your fever burning. The vibrant energy that once propelled you across continents is ebbing, replaced by a profound weakness. Your generals, those grizzled veterans who have followed you through fire and sand, gather anxiously around you. The unspoken question hangs in the air, heavy as the humid Mesopotamian night. What now? They lean in, their faces etched with worry and a dawning understanding of the immense vacuum your departure will create. To whom do you leave your empire? The question comes, a desperate plea for clarity, for guidance. Your voice, once a thunderous roar on the battlefield, is now barely a whisper, a rasp against the dry air. Your final words, to the strongest, ripple through the anxious silence. A chilling prophecy of the chaos to come. It's a statement that encapsulates your brutal pragmatism, your belief in survival of the fittest. Even for your own legacy, this last utterance, so succinct and yet so impactful, directly foreshadows the tumultuous period known as the Wars of the Diadochi. The brutal struggle for power among your generals. This final, ambiguous declaration is a classic example of a powerful leader leaving behind a volatile succession. A detail often discussed in political science and history. Your death is not immediate. It's a slow, agonizing descent. For days, you grapple with the illness, your body racked with pain, your mind perhaps still racing with unfinished plans. With the vastness of the empire you've created but not yet secured, you are still Alexander, even in your final moments, fighting against the inevitable. You hear the hushed conversations of your physicians, their helpless pronouncements. You see the faces of your loyal companions, their grief already tinged with the cold, hard glint of future ambition. The man who once seemed immortal is now undeniably mortal, and the ramifications are immediate and profound. The news of your passing spreads like wildfire, first through Babylon, then across your vast empire. The shock is immense. For years, you have been the central pillar, the guiding force, the very embodiment of the empire. Your charisma, your military genius, your sheer presence held everything together. Now, that pillar has crumbled. The Persian satraps, the Greek city-states, the newly conquered tribes, all had submitted to you. They had feared you, respected you, sometimes even worshipped you. But they had no loyalty to a collective Macedonian rule, only to Alexander. The stability you forged, often through brutal means, now hangs by a thread. Immediately, your generals, the Diadochi or successors, begin to jockey for power. These are the men who have served you faithfully, fought by your side, and shared in your triumphs. But now, their loyalty to each other is superseded by their own ambitions. There is no clear successor, no designated heir who commands the same authority or respect as you did. Your half-brother, Philip III Aridaeus, is mentally unfit to rule, and your unborn son by Roxana. Alexander IV is just that, unborn, and therefore powerless in the cutthroat world of ancient politics. This lack of a clear, strong heir is a frequent point of discussion for historians, analyzing the fragility of your empire post-mortem. The initial scramble for power is a confused and often violent affair. Perdiccas, your senior Chiliarch commander of 1,000 men, and the bearer of your signet ring, attempts to maintain a semblance of unity, acting as regent. But his authority is tenuous, the other generals, each controlling powerful armies and vast territories, begin to carve out their own spheres of influence. Ptolemy takes control of Egypt, recognizing its strategic importance and defensible borders. Seleucus eventually secures Mesopotamia and the eastern satrapies, forming the vast Seleucid Empire. Antigonus Monophthalmus the One-Eyed aims to control Asia Minor and parts of Syria, dreaming of reuniting the entire empire under his own rule. Lysimachus carves out Thrace and parts of Asia Minor. While Cassander eventually secures Macedon and Greece, what follows are decades of brutal, internecine warfare, known as the Wars of the Diadochi. It's a period of shifting alliances, betrayals, and devastating battles. The very generals who once fought alongside each other in your name now turn their swords upon each other, each seeking to fulfill your dying wish, to be the strongest. The soldiers, who once swore allegiance to you, now find themselves fighting for different commanders, often against their former comrades. The concept of a unified Hellenistic empire, your grand vision, quickly dissolves into a fractured landscape of competing kingdoms. This period of civil war is a brutal testament to the destructive potential of ambition unchecked by a singular, overwhelming authority. The irony is palpable. You, Alexander, who spent your life bringing disparate peoples under one banner, inadvertently set the stage for their immediate fragmentation. The brutal efficiency with which you eliminated rivals during your lifetime, ironically, left no one strong enough, or perhaps universally accepted enough, to hold the reins after you were gone. This is a common historical pattern. Highly centralized power often struggles with succession. The very ruthlessness that enabled your conquest also sowed the seeds of your empire's eventual division. Consider the ordinary soldier, the one who marched with you through the dust of Persia and the monsoons of India. For years, his purpose was clear. Follow Alexander now. He's caught in a whirlwind of political maneuvering, fighting for a general, then perhaps for another. As allegiances shift and fortunes change, the shared sense of camaraderie forged in battle often gives way to a grim pragmatism. A fight for survival in a world suddenly devoid of its guiding star. Many simply want to go home, but home itself is now part of this larger, fractured battlefield. Your family, those you left behind, also become pawns in this deadly game. Your mother, Olympias, ever the formidable and ruthless figure, attempts to secure the succession for your son, Alexander IV. She becomes embroiled in the conflicts, fiercely defending your legacy and her grandson's claim. But her machinations, though driven by maternal love and ambition, only add to the chaos. Ultimately, she is executed by Cassander, who sees her as a dangerous threat to his control of Macedon. Your wife, Roxana, and your young son, Alexander IV, are also eventually murdered by Cassander, effectively extinguishing your direct bloodline. The tragic end of your family is a grim reminder of the brutal nature of power struggles in the ancient world, where even children were not safe from political machinations. This particular detail, the ruthless elimination of your direct heirs, highlights the absolute lack of sentimentality in these power struggles. The legacy of your empire, though fragmented, is immense. The Hellenistic Age begins, a period of remarkable cultural fusion and intellectual exchange. The cities you founded, the Alexandrias scattered across Asia and Africa, become vibrant centers of Greek culture, learning and commerce, Greek language, art, architecture, and philosophy spread throughout the former Persian Empire, profoundly influencing the local cultures. This diffusion of Hellenic culture, often referred to as Hellenization, is perhaps your most enduring and positive legacy, a detail often overshadowed by the brutality of your conquests. New kingdoms emerge from the ruins of your unified empire, the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt, the Seleucid Empire in Asia, and the Antigonid Kingdom in Macedon. These Hellenistic kingdoms continue to embrace Greek culture, but they also incorporate local traditions, creating a rich tapestry of hybrid civilizations. The city of Alexandria in Egypt becomes a beacon of knowledge, home to the famous Library of Alexandria, a repository of ancient wisdom, and a center for scientific and philosophical inquiry. This cultural blossoming, ironically, occurs because of the fragmentation that followed your death, the military innovations you perfected, particularly the combined arms tactics and the disciplined phalanx, continue to influence warfare for centuries. Your methods of siege warfare, your logistical prowess, and your ability to inspire immense loyalty in your troops become case studies for future generals and rulers. Even Roman generals, centuries later, would study your campaigns for strategic lessons. The brutal efficiency of your army continued to be a template for expansion and control. But alongside this cultural and military legacy, there is also the shadow of your brutal life, the countless lives lost. The cities razed, the cultures subjugated, these are also part of your story. You were a conqueror who brought about both immense destruction and profound cultural transformation. Your life serves as a complex narrative of ambition, glory, genius, and tragic flaws. The human cost of your ambition, the shattered lives and decimated populations, is a stark reminder of the often brutal reality of empire building. This is where the brutal life aspect truly comes into play, the sheer human suffering inherent in such vast conquests. As the years turn into decades, your legend grows, becoming almost mythical. Tales of your exploits, your courage, your military genius, and even your divine parentage spread far and wide. You become a benchmark against which all future conquerors are measured. Your image is immortalized in statues, coins, and countless literary works. You are no longer just a king. You are Alexander the Great, a force of nature, a legend etched into the very fabric of history, the very ambiguity of your final instructions. To the strongest, continue to fuel the very conflicts that defined your empire's legacy. A fitting, if brutal, end to an extraordinary life. You are in Babylon, the ancient city of wonders, a place you had envisioned as the beating heart of your grand, unified empire. But the grand plans, the visions of further conquests stretching into Arabia and beyond, are now fading like a mirage in the desert heat. It's June 323 BC, and the oppressive Mesopotamian summer is matched only by the suffocating grip of a mysterious illness that has taken hold of you. Your body, once a tireless instrument of war and will, is failing. The fever rages, burning away your strength. You lie on your ornate bed, the silks and tapestries of your royal chambers a stark contrast to the rough canvas of your campaign tents. The air is thick with the scent of herbs and medicines, concocted by physicians who are, frankly, out of their depth. They hover over you, helpless, their anxious whispers punctuated by the frantic flapping of linen as they try to cool your burning skin. You, Alexander, the man who laughed in the face of death on countless battlefields, are now trapped in a silent, internal struggle against an invisible enemy. This slow, agonizing decline is a far cry from the glorious death in battle you might have envisioned for yourself. Adding a layer of tragic irony to your final moments, your most trusted generals, the Diadochi, gather around your bed. Their faces, usually stern and resolute, are now etched with a mixture of grief, fear, and a thinly veiled, nascent ambition. They watch your labored breaths, knowing that with each one, the vast, fragile edifice of your empire teeters closer to collapse. You are their sun, the gravitational force that holds their disparate ambitions in orbit. Without you, they will fly apart. They whisper questions, desperate for a sign, a clear instruction for succession. To whom do you leave your empire? They ask. Their voices hushed, almost reverent. Your raspy reply. To the strongest. Echoes in the silent chamber. A final, brutal testament to your worldview. A prediction and a challenge all in one. It's a moment of profound consequence. Setting the stage for decades of bloody conflict, your death, though anticipated for days, plunges the entire empire into immediate disarray. The news spreads rapidly, carried by frantic messengers across thousands of miles, in Macedonia, in Greece, in Egypt, in the far-flung satrapies of Asia. The reaction is the same shock, then uncertainty, then the desperate scramble for power. The glue that held your disparate conquest together was your singular will, your unyielding charisma. Without it, the vast collection of cultures, armies, and ambitious individuals begins to unravel. Consider the common Macedonian soldier. For years, he has followed you. Alexander, through impossible campaigns, from the scorching deserts of Egypt to the frozen peaks of the Hindu Kush. He has endured hunger, thirst, wounds, and unimaginable fatigue. All for you. He understood your vision, your glory. Now, his invincible leader is gone. Who does he follow who ensures his pay, his safety, his return home? The immediate future is a terrifying void. This uncertainty for the common soldier highlights the deep personal loyalty you commanded, and the void left by your passing. The generals, your former companions, wasted no time in asserting their claims. Perdiccas, as your chiliarch and the holder of your signet ring, initially attempts to maintain a semblance of unity, acting as regent for your mentally incapacitated half-brother, Philip III Aridaeus, and your unborn son, Alexander IV. But Perdiccas lacks your supreme authority, your almost divine aura. He is merely first among equals, and his attempts to control the other ambitious generals prove futile. The very concept of a single, unified empire under a collective leadership is alien to them. A foreign notion in a world where power is singular and fiercely held. The first cracks appear almost immediately. Ptolemy, one of your most cunning and pragmatic generals, makes his move. He recognizes the strategic importance of Egypt, its wealth, its defensible borders, and its relative isolation from the central conflicts in Asia. He diverts your funeral procession, famously intercepting your body and taking it to Memphis, then eventually to Alexandria. This act is a brilliant piece of propaganda, asserting his claim to legitimacy in establishing Egypt as a separate, powerful entity. Your very body becomes a symbol, a pawn in the desperate struggle for succession. This strategic move by Ptolemy is a classic example of opportunism during a power vacuum, a detail that is critical for understanding the subsequent fragmentation of your empire. Meanwhile, in Asia, Antigonus Monophthalmus the One-Eyed, a grizzled veteran with vast military experience, begins to consolidate his power in Asia Minor. He dreams of reuniting the empire under his own banner, believing himself to be the rightful successor. His military prowess is undeniable, and he quickly becomes a dominant force in the western part of your former empire. Lysimachus carves out a kingdom in Thrace, a wild and strategically important region. Cassander, the son of Antipater, your viceroy in Macedon, quickly moves to secure Macedon and Greece. The heartland of your power, he views your young son, Alexander IV, as a threat to his ambitions. The wars of the Diadochi begin, a brutal, relentless series of conflicts that would last for over 40 years. These are not just skirmishes, they are full-scale wars, fought with the same Macedonian phalanx and cavalry tactics that you perfected. The very military machine you forged, designed to conquer the world, is now tearing itself apart. Battles are fought across the vast expanse of your empire, from Greece to Mesopotamia, from Asia Minor to Egypt. Former comrades in arms now face each other across the battlefield, their loyalties shifted, their ambitions clashing violently. Think of the sheer human cost of this. Generations of soldiers, born and raised under the shadow of your conquest, are now caught in an endless cycle of civil war. Cities you liberated are now besieged. Trade routes you opened are now disrupted. The stability you had imposed, often brutally, is replaced by chronic instability and conflict. The unity you had championed, however flawed, has vanished. This ongoing conflict, driven by the ambiguity of your final wishes, is a tragic and direct consequence of your passing. This prolonged period of warfare, often overlooked in the grand narrative of your life, is where the brutal aspect of your legacy truly manifests for countless ordinary people. The fate of your family is particularly grim. Your formidable mother, Olympias, emerges from Epirus, fiercely determined to protect the rights of your young son. Alexander IV. She aligns herself with Polyperchon, Perdiccas's successor as a regent, and unleashes a brutal purge of Cassander's supporters in Macedon. She executes Philip III Aridaeus and his wife, Eurydice, securing Alexander IV's nominal claim to the throne, but her ruthlessness ultimately seals her own fate. Cassander, a cold and calculating strategist, eventually crushes her forces, captures her, and has her executed in 316 BC. Her death marks the end of a fierce, intelligent woman who fought relentlessly for her son and grandson. The ultimate tragedy unfolds for your wife, Roxana, and your son, Alexander IV. As the young prince grows, he becomes a dangerous symbol, a legitimate heir around whom discontent could coalesce. Cassander, consolidating his power in Macedon, cannot tolerate such a threat. Around 310 BC, he arranges for Roxana and Alexander IV to be secretly murdered. With their deaths, your direct bloodline is extinguished, and the last vestiges of the Achaemenid and Argead royal lines vanish from history. The elimination of your family members underscores the cold, calculating brutality of ancient succession struggles. No one, not even a child, was safe. The outcome of the Wars of the Diadochi is the permanent fragmentation of your empire into several major Hellenistic kingdoms. First, the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt, founded by Ptolemy the Stusoter. This dynasty would rule Egypt for nearly 3 centuries, until the death of Cleopatra VII and the Roman conquest. Alexandria, the city you founded, becomes a beacon of learning and culture, housing the famous Library of Alexandria. Second, the Seleucid Empire, founded by Seleucus the Firm Nicator. This was the largest of the Hellenistic kingdoms. Stretching from Asia Minor to the borders of India, it struggled to maintain control over its vast territories, facing constant challenges from local populations and rival states. Third, the Antigonid Kingdom of Macedon, eventually established by Antigonus Gonatas, Antigonus Monophthalmus's grandson. After a series of brutal power struggles, this dynasty would control Macedon and, intermittently, parts of Greece. And finally, the Kingdom of Thrace, established by Lysimachus, though it proved less stable and enduring than the others. These Hellenistic kingdoms, though distinct political entities, shared a common cultural thread. Hellenism, your conquests, despite their fragmentation, irrevocably changed the cultural landscape of the ancient world. Greek language, institutions, art, and philosophy spread throughout the Middle East and beyond. Greek cities, modeled on the polis, were founded across your former empire, acting as centers of Hellenic culture. This phenomenon, known as Hellenization, is perhaps your most profound and lasting legacy. Far outweighing the transient nature of your political empire, this is a subtle but crucial point of historical analysis. While your political empire collapsed, your cultural impact soared. Greek became the lingua franca of the educated elite across a vast swathe of the world. Philosophers, scientists, and artists flourished in cities like Alexandria, Antioch, and Pergamum. The very notion of a unified intellectual world drawing from both Greek and Eastern traditions, began to take root. This fusion of cultures, though often imposed by military might, ultimately led to a period of unprecedented intellectual and artistic growth. However, the shadow of your brutal life persists. The imposition of Greek culture was not always benign. Local customs were often suppressed, indigenous populations exploited, and resistance met with overwhelming force. The wealth extracted from conquered lands fueled the grandeur of the Hellenistic capitals, but often at the expense of the conquered peoples. The human suffering caused by your relentless campaigns, and the subsequent wars of your successors, left an indelible mark on the landscape and its people. Your legacy, therefore, is a complex tapestry woven with threads of unprecedented glory and profound brutality. You were a military genius who reshaped the map of the ancient world, a visionary who dreamed of a unified empire, and a charismatic leader who inspired fierce loyalty. But you were also a ruthless conqueror, a man prone to violent outbursts, and a figure whose ultimate demise unleashed decades of devastating conflict. Your life, though tragically short, carved an indelible mark on history, forever altering the trajectory of East and West. The very idea of the strongest defining succession, a concept born from your dying breath, continued to shape the violent political landscape long after you were gone. You are in Babylon, but the bustling streets, the grand palaces, and the exotic sounds of 1,000 cultures begin to blur. The searing heat of the Mesopotamian summer no longer bothers you. A far more intense heat burns within your own body. It's June 323 BC, and the illness, mysterious and relentless, is consuming you, your body. Once the very embodiment of strength and unyielding will, is now a cage of pain and weakness. Your once unwavering mind, accustomed to processing complex battle plans and diplomatic maneuvers, now drifts in and out of lucidity. You hear the anxious murmurs of your generals, their faces a swirling mix of grief and calculation as they gather around your bedside. They speak in hushed tones, desperately seeking a final decree, a clear line of succession. To whom do you leave your empire? The question hangs heavy in the air, a plea from men who have always relied on your singular vision. Your reply, a ragged whisper, slices through the silence to the strongest. It's a statement as brutal and direct as any command you ever issued on the battlefield. A final act of the relentless pragmatist. An unvarnished truth that foretold decades of bloodshed. This final declaration, a chilling legacy, sets the stage for a period of chaos that would redefine the ancient world, proving that even the most formidable of empires could crumble without its singular dominant force. Your passing, though agonizingly slow, sends shockwaves across your vast, newly conquered world. The news travels by swift riders, by sea, by word of mouth, reaching every corner of your sprawling dominion. The reaction is immediate, and profound disbelief turns to fear. Fear to opportunism, and opportunism to conflict. The unity you had forged, often through brute force and sheer charisma, depended entirely on you. Without your magnetic presence, your terrifying genius, the very foundations of your empire begin to crack. Imagine the average Macedonian soldier, miles from home. Having endured years of relentless campaigning, he marched with you, bled for you, believed in your divine destiny. He fought at Granicus, at Issus, at Gaugamela, through the treacherous Hindu Kush and the monsoon-drenched plains of India. His loyalty was personal, tied directly to your leadership. Now, his invincible commander is gone. Who leads him now? Who protects his interests? Who guarantees his future? The answer is terrifyingly unclear, and this uncertainty, multiplied by tens of thousands, fuels the immediate chaos that erupts. The soldiers, no longer united by a singular purpose. Become pawns in the escalating power struggles among your former generals? This shift from singular loyalty to fragmented allegiance is a common pattern in the aftermath of a powerful, charismatic leader's death. The scramble for power begins almost before your last breath leaves your body. Your most prominent generals, the Diadochi, wasted no time in asserting their individual claims. Perdiccas, initially wielding your signet ring and designated as regent, attempts to hold the fragile empire together. He tries to rule in the name of your mentally incapacitated half-brother, Philip III Aridaeus, and your still unborn son, Alexander IV. But Perdiccas, for all his military experience, lacks your inherent authority, your almost mythical status. He is merely a general, first among equals, and the other ambitious generals quickly see through his attempts to centralize power. Ptolemy, the shrewd and calculating general, makes the first decisive move that directly challenges the idea of a unified empire. He orchestrates the diversion of your funeral procession, intercepting your body and bringing it to Memphis, then eventually to Alexandria in Egypt. This act is more than just a gesture of reverence. It is a masterstroke of political maneuvering. By possessing your remains, Ptolemy symbolically claims your legacy, establishing Egypt as his own independent domain, strategically positioning it with defensible borders and immense wealth, largely removed from the immediate conflicts brewing in Asia. This bold move highlights the cunning and foresight that characterized many of your generals, even as they dismantled your grand design. Meanwhile, in Asia Minor, Antigonus Monophthalmus the One-Eyed, a veteran of the highest caliber, begins his relentless campaign to reunify the empire under his own rule. He is a formidable opponent, possessing a strong army and an unwavering ambition. He dreams of recreating your empire in his own image, and for decades, he will be a central, powerful force in the wars of the Diadochi. Lysimachus, another of your trusted generals, secures control over Thrace, a wild and strategically vital frontier, and in your homeland, Macedon, Cassander, the ambitious son of Antipater, your long-standing viceroy in Europe, wastes no time consolidating his power. Viewing your young son, Alexander IV, as an inconvenient obstacle to his ultimate rule, the Wars of the Diadochi, a series of brutal, prolonged conflicts, tear through the vast territories you spent your life conquering. It's a period of shifting alliances, dramatic betrayals, and devastating battles that dwarf many of your own in scale. The very military machine you forged, the disciplined phalanx, the elite companion cavalry, the sophisticated siege engines, all are now turned inward, tearing apart the very fabric of the empire. Your former comrades, men who once fought side by side against common enemies, now face each other across bloody battlefields, their loyalty replaced by naked ambition. Consider the landscape of your empire during this period. Cities you founded as beacons of Hellenism are besieged and destroyed. Trade routes that once hummed with commerce are now choked by conflict. Populations that you had liberated from Persian rule now find themselves under the heel of new, equally ruthless, conquerors. The stability you imposed, however heavy-handed, is replaced by chronic warfare and political instability. The grand vision of a united East and West, a world under one Hellenic banner, dissolves into a fragmented collection of warring states. The very ambiguity of your last words ensured this brutal, protracted period of conflict, underscoring the severe human cost of unchecked ambition. This prolonged period of internecine warfare is a testament to the fact that even the most brilliant conqueror cannot dictate the actions of those left behind. The tragic fate of your family stands as a stark testament to the ruthless nature of these power struggles. Your mother, Olympias, a woman of fierce intellect and unyielding will, emerges from Epirus, desperately trying to secure the throne for your young son, Alexander IV. she becomes a formidable player in the political machinations, aligning herself with one faction, then another, relentlessly fighting for her grandson's legacy. She even orchestrates the execution of Philip III Aridaeus and his wife, Eurydice, to remove a rival claim to the throne. But her own ruthlessness ultimately seals her fate. Cassander, the master of Macedon, eventually defeats her forces, captures her, and has her executed in 316 BC. Her death marks the end of a life spent in the shadows of power, fiercely protecting her son's interests. The ultimate tragedy, however, befalls your wife, Roxana, and your beloved son, Alexander IV. As the young boy grows, he becomes a dangerous symbol, a rallying point for those who might challenge the emerging order. Cassander, consolidating his grip on Macedon, cannot tolerate such a threat to his burgeoning power. Around 310 BC, he orders the secret murders of both Roxana and Alexander IV, with their deaths. Your direct bloodline is extinguished, and the Argead dynasty, the royal house of Macedon, comes to an end. The brutal elimination of your family, especially your young son, is a chilling reminder that in the ruthless game of ancient power, no one, not even innocent children, was safe. Despite the political fragmentation, your conquest set in motion a profound and enduring cultural transformation that would shape the course of Western and Middle Eastern history for centuries. This phenomenon, known as Hellenization, is perhaps your most significant and lasting legacy, far more permanent than the transient political empire you forged. Greek language, which became the lingua franca of administration, commerce, and intellectual discourse across your former territories. Spread far and wide, Greek art, architecture, philosophy, and political institutions were introduced to vast new regions, mingling with local cultures to create unique Hellenistic civilizations. The cities you founded, the numerous Alexandrias scattered across Asia and Africa, became vibrant centers of this cultural fusion. Alexandria and Egypt, in particular, blossomed into an intellectual powerhouse, home to the legendary Library of Alexandria, a vast repository of knowledge, and a hub for scholars, scientists, and philosophers from across the ancient world. Here, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and literature flourished, synthesizing Greek and Eastern intellectual traditions. This accidental cultural diffusion, a byproduct of your military expansion, led to a period of unprecedented intellectual growth and exchange. The military innovations you spearheaded, particularly the combined arms tactics and the adaptable Macedonian phalanx, continued to influence warfare for centuries. Your strategic brilliance, your logistical prowess in moving vast armies across impossible terrain, and your ability to inspire unyielding loyalty in your troops became subjects of study for future generals. From Hannibal to Caesar, your brutal efficiency in battle, the tactics you employed to overcome numerically superior foes, became the gold standard for ambitious military leaders. Yet, woven into this tapestry of glory and cultural diffusion is the undeniable thread of your brutal life. The scale of human suffering inflicted during your relentless campaigns. The countless lives lost, the cities razed, the forced migrations, and the imposition of foreign rule, these are also an undeniable part of your legacy. The wealth that flowed into your coffers, and later, into the treasuries of the Hellenistic kings, often came at the direct expense of the conquered peoples, who faced exploitation and oppression. The brutal efficiency of your conquests, while ensuring your success, also left a trail of immense human misery. Your life, though tragically brief at just 32 years, was a furious, dazzling meteor that blazed across the ancient world, forever altering its trajectory. You were a complex figure, a military genius, a visionary statesman, a magnetic leader, and a man driven by insatiable ambition. But you were also ruthless, prone to violent outbursts, and ultimately left behind an empire that, without your singular command, fractured into decades of devastating civil war. Your name, Alexander the Great, echoes through history not just for your unparalleled triumphs, but for the profound, often brutal, impact you had on the world, the echoes of your final words. To the strongest, continue to resonate. A grim reminder of the enduring struggle for power that defines human history. You are fading. The vibrant world that once bent to your will now dissolves into a haze of pain and indistinct sounds. It's June 323 BC in Babylon, and the formidable body that led armies across continents is racked with fever, succumbing to an unseen enemy. Your vision, once piercing and strategic, now blurs. The faces of your anxious generals morphing into ghostly apparitions. They press close, desperate for a final word, a clear directive for the empire you carved from the world. To whom do you leave your empire, they plead, their voices choked with fear and nascent ambition. Your reply, a ragged breath, cuts through the humid air like a sword, to the strongest. It's a declaration both defiant and fatalistic, a final, brutal testament to your unwavering belief in raw power, a prophecy that will plunge your vast dominion into an agonizing, decades-long civil war. This single, final utterance encapsulates your brutal pragmatism, your conviction that only the most ruthless and capable could truly hold such immense power. A detail that remains a central point of contention among historians, debating your ultimate legacy. Your death, though a culmination of days of suffering, ignites immediate chaos across your sprawling empire. News travels swiftly, carried by desperate messengers across mountains and deserts, by ship across seas, from the fertile Nile Delta to the rugged plains of Central Asia. The reaction is the same shock, then a terrifying void, followed by a scramble for power that quickly devolves into open conflict. The very fabric of your empire, woven together by your singular will and terrifying charisma, begins to unravel. Without you, the undeniable, unifying force. The disparate pieces simply cannot hold. Imagine, for a moment, the veterans of your army. They followed you, Alexander, through every hellish campaign, enduring impossible marches, facing unimaginable odds, always believing in your divine mission. Their loyalty was personal, an almost fanatical devotion to you. They saw you lead from the front, share their hardships, and achieve victories that defied all logic. Now, that guiding star has winked out. Who are they loyal to? Who commands their unwavering obedience? The clarity of purpose that defined their lives for so many years has evaporated, replaced by a bewildering array of competing claims and ambitions among your former generals. This immediate, pervasive sense of disorientation among your loyal troops is a critical, often understated, consequence of your sudden death, directly contributing to the rapid onset of the wars of the Diadochi. The Diadochi, your most trusted companions and seasoned commanders, wasted no time in asserting their individual claims. Perdiccas, initially wielding the symbols of your authority, your signet ring, and the de facto regency for your mentally incapacitated half-brother, Philip III Aridaeus, and your unborn son. Alexander IV attempted to maintain the fiction of a unified empire, but Perdiccas, though a competent general, lacked your divine aura, your unmatched strategic genius. He was merely first among equals, and the other powerful generals, each commanding their own loyal armies in vast territories, quickly saw through his attempts to centralize power under his own, more limited, authority. The first decisive blow to the dream of a unified empire came from Ptolemy, shrewd, calculating, and with a keen eye for long-term power. Ptolemy immediately recognized the strategic advantages of Egypt, its immense wealth, its easily defensible borders, and its relative isolation from the land-based power struggles brewing in Asia made it an ideal base. He orchestrated the audacious diversion of your funeral procession, seizing your body and transporting it to Memphis, then later to the city you founded, Alexandria. This act was a masterstroke of both propaganda and political maneuvering. By possessing your remains, Ptolemy symbolically claimed your legacy, establishing his independent rule over Egypt and setting a precedent for the other generals to carve out their own domains. This audacious move by Ptolemy is a prime example of the ruthless pragmatism that defined the struggle for succession. A historical detail that underlines the immediate fracturing of your empire. Meanwhile, in Asia, the formidable Antigonus Monophthalmus the One-Eyed, a general of immense experience and unwavering ambition, began to consolidate his power in Asia Minor. He harbored grand visions of reuniting your entire empire under his own rule, believing himself to be the rightful successor to your imperial throne. For decades, he would be the most powerful and relentless contender in the ensuing conflicts. Lysimachus, another of your trusted commanders, shrewdly secured control over Thrace, a wild but strategically important frontier region that served as a buffer between the European and Asian halves of your former dominion. In Macedon, your homeland, Cassander, the ambitious son of Antipater, your long-serving viceroy in Europe, moved swiftly to secure his control. He viewed your young son, Alexander IV, as an inconvenient and dangerous threat to his burgeoning power, a living symbol of a legitimate claim that undermined his own. The Wars of the Diadochi, a protracted and incredibly brutal series of conflicts, would rage across the vast territories you had conquered for over 4 decades. This wasn't just a political struggle, it was a devastating military conflict, fought with the very tools and tactics you had perfected. The formidable Macedonian phalanx, the elite companion cavalry, the sophisticated siege engines all were turned inward, used by former comrades against each other. The unity of purpose that once drove them against the Persian Empire dissolved, replaced by a naked struggle for personal dominion. Consider the ordinary people caught in the crossfire of these wars. The cities you had founded, intended as vibrant centers of Hellenic culture and commerce, often became targets of siege and destruction. Trade routes that once hummed with goods and ideas were choked by military movements and political instability. Populations that you had liberated from Persian rule now found themselves under the heel of new, equally ruthless masters. The stability you had imposed, however heavy-handed, was utterly shattered, replaced by a chronic state of warfare and political upheaval. This prolonged period of internecine conflict, a direct consequence of your death and the ambiguity of your succession, represents the true, brutal human cost of your legacy, a detail often overshadowed by the glory of your conquests. The suffering of countless nameless individuals trapped in this relentless cycle of violence is a grim historical reality that must not be forgotten. The fate of your own family, ironically, serves as the most poignant testament to the ruthless nature of these power struggles. Your formidable mother, Olympias, a woman of fierce intellect and unyielding will, emerged from her homeland of Epirus, desperately fighting to secure the throne for your young son. Alexander IV, she became a major player in the political intrigues, forming and breaking alliances, and even orchestrating the execution of Philip III Aridaeus and his wife, Eurydice, to eliminate any rival claims to the throne. But her own ruthless tactics and her fierce devotion to your legacy ultimately sealed her fate. Cassander, the cold and calculating strategist who had secured Macedon, eventually defeated her forces, captured her, and had her executed in 316 BC. Her death marked the end of a life spent in the shadows of power, driven by a relentless desire to protect her son's interests and uphold his. And her grandson's claim to the throne aimed to the ultimate tragedy. However, would befall your wife, Roxana, and your beloved son, Alexander the Foyer. As the young prince grew, he became an increasingly dangerous symbol, a legitimate rallying point for any faction seeking to challenge the emerging order. Cassander, consolidating his iron grip on Macedon, could not tolerate such a threat to his burgeoning power. Around 310 BC, he arranged for the secret murders of both Roxana and Alexander IV, with their deaths. Your direct bloodline was extinguished, and the Argead dynasty, the ancient royal house of Macedon, came to an end. The brutal elimination of your family, especially your innocent young son, is a chilling reminder that in the ruthless game of ancient power, no one, regardless of age or familial connection, was safe from political assassination. Despite the political fragmentation and the decades of brutal warfare, your conquests initiated a profound and enduring cultural transformation that would reshape the course of both Western and Middle Eastern history for centuries. This phenomenon, known as Hellenization, is perhaps your most significant and lasting legacy, far more permanent than the transient political empire you forged. Greek language, which became the lingua franca of administration, commerce, and intellectual discourse across your former territories, spread far and wide. Greek art, architecture, philosophy, and political institutions were introduced to vast new regions, mingling with local cultures to create unique Hellenistic civilizations. The hundreds of cities you founded, the numerous Alexandrias scattered across Asia and Africa, became vibrant centers of this cultural fusion. Alexandria, in Egypt in particular, blossomed into an intellectual powerhouse. Home to the legendary Library of Alexandria, a vast repository of ancient knowledge and a hub for scholars, scientists, and philosophers from across the ancient world. Here, disciplines like mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and literature flourished, synthesizing Greek and Eastern intellectual traditions. This accidental cultural diffusion, a byproduct of your military expansion, led to a period of unprecedented intellectual growth and cross-cultural exchange. It's an often overlooked detail that the very chaos after your death paradoxically created the conditions for this cultural flourishing. As your generals, now kings, invested heavily in these new centers of learning and prestige, the military innovations you spearheaded, particularly the combined arms tactics, the adaptable Macedonian phalanx, and your emphasis on logistics continued to influence warfare for centuries. Your strategic brilliance, your seemingly impossible marches, and your ability to inspire unyielding loyalty in your troops became subjects of study for future generals, from Hannibal to Caesar. Your brutal efficiency in battle, the innovative tactics you employed to overcome numerically superior foes, became the gold standard for ambitious military leaders. Yet, woven into this magnificent tapestry of glory and cultural diffusion is the undeniable, stark thread of your brutal life. The scale of human suffering inflicted during your relentless campaigns. The countless lives lost, the cities razed to the ground, the forced migrations, and the often harsh imposition of foreign rule, these are also an undeniable part of your story. The immense wealth that flowed into your coffers, and later into the treasuries of the Hellenistic kings, often came at the direct expense of the conquered peoples, who faced exploitation, displacement, and oppression. The brutal efficiency of your conquests, while ensuring your astonishing success, also left a trail of immense human misery and societal upheaval. Your life, though tragically brief at just 32 years, was a furious, dazzling meteor that blazed across the ancient world, forever altering its trajectory. You were a complex figure, a military genius unparalleled in your era, a visionary statesman who dreamed of a unified empire, and a magnetic leader who inspired fierce, almost fanatical loyalty. But you were also ruthless, prone to violent outbursts, consumed by ambition, and ultimately left behind an empire that, Without your singular command, fractured into decades of devastating civil war, your name, Alexander the Great, echoes through history not just for your unparalleled triumphs, but for the profound, often brutal, impact you had on the world, the echoes of your final words. To the strongest, continue to resonate. A grim reminder of the enduring, often violent, struggle for power that defines human history. You are barely clinging to life. The fever, a relentless fire within your veins, has consumed your legendary strength. It's June 323 BC, and the opulent chambers in Babylon, meant to be the seat of your sprawling empire, have become your deathbed. The faces of your generals, once unwavering in battle, are now a blur of anguish and calculation, illuminated by the flickering oil lamps, their urgent whispers. To whom do you leave your empire? Cut through the haze of your pain? Your final raspy declaration, to the strongest, is a brutal echo of your life's philosophy, an ultimate challenge that will plunge your vast dominion into a maelstrom of civil war. This last testament, stark in its brevity, would define the next half-century of the ancient world, demonstrating that even the most formidable personal will cannot prevent the ultimate unraveling when its source is extinguished, your death, though anticipated by your closest companions, sends shockwaves that reverberate through every corner of the world you had conquered. From the ancient Greek city-states to the newly subdued tribes of India. The news of your passing creates an immediate power vacuum, triggering a frantic scramble for control. The unity you had forged, a monumental achievement held together by the sheer force of your personality and military genius, begins to unravel with terrifying speed. Without you, the undeniable magnetic center, the immense structure you built simply cannot hold. Imagine the disillusionment of your veteran soldiers. They had marched with you, bled for you, believed in your divine right to rule. They had faced down Persian hordes, navigated treacherous deserts, and fought fearsome elephants, all driven by loyalty to you. They had seen you wounded, seen you lead from the front, seen you overcome every conceivable obstacle. Their very identities were tied to your glory. Now, their God-king is gone. Who do they follow? Who commands their unwavering obedience? The clarity of purpose that defined their lives for so long vanishes, replaced by a bewildering array of competing claims from your former generals. This immediate crisis of loyalty among your vast army is a crucial, yet often underemphasized. Factor in the rapid fragmentation of your empire. These hardened warriors, trained for endless conquest, now found themselves adrift, forced to choose new masters from amongst their former peers, the Diadochi, your most trusted companions and battle-hardened commanders. Wasted no time in asserting their individual claims to the pieces of your fallen empire. Perdiccas, initially wielding the symbols of your authority, your signet ring, and the de facto regency for your mentally incapacitated half-brother. Philip III Aridaeus, and your unborn son. Alexander the Fortress attempted to maintain the illusion of a unified empire. But Perdiccas, for all his military acumen, lacked your unparalleled charisma and divine aura. He was merely first among equals, and the other powerful generals, each commanding their own loyal armies and vast territories, quickly saw through his attempts to centralize power under his own, more limited, authority. His efforts were doomed from the start, a testament to the singular nature of your rule. The first decisive blow to the dream of a unified empire came from Ptolemy, shrewd, calculating, and with an uncanny ability to read the shifting tides of power. Ptolemy immediately recognized the strategic advantages of Egypt, its immense wealth, its easily defensible borders, and its relative isolation from the land-based power struggles brewing in Asia made it an ideal base from which to carve out an independent kingdom. He orchestrated the audacious diversion of your funeral procession, seizing your body and transporting it to Memphis, then later to the very city you founded. Alexandria. This act was a masterstroke of both propaganda and political maneuvering by possessing your remains. Ptolemy symbolically claimed your legacy, establishing his independent rule over Egypt and setting a powerful precedent for the other generals to carve out their own domains. This bold, pragmatic move by Ptolemy is a prime example of the ruthless opportunism that defined the struggle for succession, a historical detail that underlines the immediate and irrevocable fracturing of your empire. Meanwhile, in Asia, the formidable Antigonus Monophthalmus the One-Eyed, a general of immense experience and unwavering ambition, began his relentless campaign to reunify your entire empire under his own rule. He was a truly formidable contender, possessing a strong army and an unshakable belief in his own right to rule. For decades, he would be the most powerful and relentless force in the ensuing conflicts. Repeatedly attempting to reclaim your scattered dominion, Lysimachus, another of your trusted commanders, shrewdly secured control over Thrace, a wild but strategically important frontier region that served as a buffer between the European and Asian halves of your former dominion. And in Macedon, your homeland, Cassander, the ambitious son of Antipater, your long-serving viceroy in Europe, moved swiftly to secure his control. He viewed your young son, Alexander IV, as an inconvenient and dangerous threat to his burgeoning power, a living symbol of a legitimate claim that undermined his own, the Wars of the Diadochi, a protracted and incredibly brutal series of conflicts, would rage across the vast territories you had conquered for over 4 decades. This wasn't merely a political struggle, it was a devastating military conflict fought with the very tools and tactics you had perfected. The formidable Macedonian phalanx, the elite companion cavalry, the sophisticated siege engines all were turned inward, used by former comrades against each other. The unity of purpose that once drove them against the Persian Empire dissolved, replaced by a naked struggle for personal dominion. A fight where the ultimate prize was sole control of whatever fragments of your empire they could seize. Consider the countless ordinary people caught in the crossfire of these relentless wars. The cities you had founded, intended as vibrant centers of Hellenic culture and commerce, often became targets of siege and destruction, their populations displaced or enslaved. Trade routes that once hummed with goods and ideas were choked by military movements, banditry, and political instability. Populations that you had liberated from Persian rule now found themselves under the heel of new, equally ruthless, masters, facing fresh waves of exploitation and oppression. The stability you had imposed, however heavy-handed and enforced by your overwhelming military might, was utterly shattered. Replaced by a chronic state of warfare and widespread political upheaval, this prolonged period of internecine conflict, a direct and tragic consequence of your death and the ambiguity of your succession, represents the true, brutal human cost of your legacy, a detail often overshadowed by the glory of your conquests. The suffering of countless nameless individuals trapped in this relentless cycle of violence is a grim historical reality that must not be forgotten. The fate of your own family, ironically, serves as the most poignant and brutal testament to the ruthless nature of these power struggles. Your formidable mother, Olympias, a woman of fierce intellect and unyielding will, emerged from her homeland of Epirus, desperately fighting to secure the throne for your young son, Alexander IV. She became a major player in the political intrigues, forming and breaking alliances, and even orchestrating the execution of Philip III Aridaeus and his wife, Eurydice, to eliminate any rival claims to the throne. But her own ruthless tactics and her fierce devotion to your legacy ultimately sealed her fate. Cassander, the cold and calculating strategist who had secured Macedon, eventually defeated her forces, captured her, and had her executed in 316 BC. Her death marked the end of a life spent in the shadows of power, driven by a relentless desire to protect her son's interests and uphold his, and her grandson's, claim to the throne. The ultimate tragedy, however, would befall your wife, Roxana, and your beloved son, Alexander IV. As the young prince grew, he became an increasingly dangerous symbol, a legitimate rallying point for any faction seeking to challenge the emerging order. Cassander, consolidating his iron grip on Macedon, could not tolerate such a threat to his burgeoning power. Around 310 BC, he arranged for the secret murders of both Roxana and Alexander IV. With their deaths, your direct bloodline was extinguished, and the Argead dynasty, the ancient royal house of Macedon, came to an end. The brutal elimination of your family, especially your innocent young son, is a chilling reminder that in the ruthless game of ancient power, no one, regardless of age or familial connection, was safe from political assassination, particularly when a throne was at stake. Despite the profound political fragmentation and the decades of brutal warfare that followed your death, your conquest initiated a profound and enduring cultural transformation that would reshape the course of both Western and Middle Eastern history for centuries. This phenomenon, universally known as Hellenization, is perhaps your most significant and lasting legacy, far more permanent than the transient political empire you forged. Greek language, which became the lingua franca of administration, commerce, and intellectual discourse across your former territories, spread far and wide. Greek art, architecture, philosophy, and political institutions were introduced to vast new regions, mingling with local cultures to create unique Hellenistic civilizations. The hundreds of cities you founded, the numerous Alexandrias scattered across Asia and Africa, became vibrant centers of this cultural fusion. Alexandria in Egypt, in particular, blossomed into an intellectual powerhouse, home to the legendary Library of Alexandria, a vast repository of ancient knowledge and a hub for scholars, scientists, and philosophers from across the ancient world. Here, disciplines like mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and literature flourished. Synthesizing Greek and Eastern intellectual traditions, this accidental cultural diffusion, a byproduct of your military expansion, led to a period of unprecedented intellectual growth and cross-cultural exchange. It's an often overlooked detail that the very chaos after your death paradoxically created the conditions for this cultural flourishing. As your generals, now kings, invested heavily in these new centers of learning and prestige, seeking to outdo each other in cultural patronage as well as military might, the military innovations you spearheaded, particularly the combined arms tactics, the adaptable Macedonian phalanx, and your meticulous emphasis on logistics continued to influence warfare for centuries. Your strategic brilliance, your seemingly impossible marches across vast and hostile terrains, and your unparalleled ability to inspire unyielding loyalty in your troops became subjects of intense study for future generals. From Hannibal to Caesar, and even into modern military academies, your brutal efficiency in battle, the innovative tactics you employed to overcome numerically superior foes, became the gold standard for ambitious military leaders seeking to replicate your astonishing successes. Yet, woven into this magnificent tapestry of glory and unparalleled cultural diffusion is the undeniable, stark thread of your brutal life, the sheer scale of human suffering inflicted during your relentless campaigns, the countless lives lost in battle and through disease, the cities razed to the ground, the forced migrations, and the often harsh imposition of foreign rule. These are also an undeniable part of your story. The immense wealth that flowed into your coffers, and later into the treasuries of the Hellenistic kings, often came at the direct expense of the conquered peoples, who faced exploitation, displacement, and systematic oppression. The brutal efficiency of your conquest while ensuring your astonishing military success also left a pervasive trail of immense human misery and societal upheaval that lasted for generations. Your life, though tragically brief at just 32 years, was a furious, dazzling meteor that blazed across the ancient world, forever altering its trajectory. You were a complex figure, a military genius unparalleled in your era, a visionary statesman who dreamed of a unified empire, and a magnetic leader who inspired fierce, almost fanatical loyalty. But you were also ruthless, prone to violent outbursts, consumed by an insatiable ambition, and ultimately left behind an empire that, without your singular command, fractured into decades of devastating civil war. Your name, Alexander the Great, echoes through history not just for your unparalleled triumphs and enduring cultural impact, but for the profound, often brutal, impact you had on the world, leaving a legacy inextricably linked to both magnificent achievement and immense human cost. The echoes of your final words, "To the strongest," continue to resonate, a grim reminder of the enduring, often violent, struggle for power that defines human history. You are gone. The fever has finally claimed you. It's June 323 BC, and the world holds its breath, then shatters. The magnificent, brutal tapestry of your life, woven with threads of unprecedented conquest and chilling ruthlessness, has come to an abrupt end in Babylon. Your final whispered words, "To the strongest," hang in the humid air, not as a dying wish, but as a dire prophecy, unleashing a storm of ambition and bloodshed that will redefine the ancient world. The very force that bound a continent-spanning empire together, your singular, indomitable will has vanished, leaving behind a power vacuum that would consume itself for decades. This ultimate, deliberate ambiguity of your succession, a final act of brutal pragmatism, guaranteed the very fragmentation you had seemingly spent your life uniting. A point of endless fascination and debate for historians, the immediate aftermath of your death is pure, unadulterated chaos. News of your demise, carried by relays of frantic riders and desperate sailors, spreads like a plague across your vast dominion, from the sun-baked deserts of Egypt to the rugged mountains bordering India. The reaction is a terrifying mix of disbelief, fear, and avarice. The empire you forged, held together by your terrifying charisma and military genius, immediately begins to tear itself apart without you. The undeniable magnetic center, the immense structure you built simply cannot hold. Consider the fate of your soldiers, the grizzled veterans who had marched with you through every hellish campaign. They had faced down Persian immortals, navigated treacherous deserts, and fought fearsome war elephants, all driven by an almost fanatical loyalty to you. They had seen you lead from the front, share their hardships, and achieve victories that defied all logic. Their very identities were tied to your glory, their purpose defined by your boundless ambition. Now, their God-King is gone. Who do they follow? Who commands their unwavering obedience? The clarity of purpose that defined their lives for so long vanishes, replaced by a bewildering array of competing claims from your former generals. This immediate crisis of loyalty among your vast, battle-hardened army is a crucial, yet often understated. Factor in the rapid and brutal fragmentation of your empire. These warriors, trained for endless conquest, now found themselves adrift, forced to choose new masters from among their former peers, often finding themselves fighting against the very comrades with whom they had shared triumph and suffering. The Diadasi, your most trusted companions and battle-hardened commanders, wasted no time in asserting their individual claims to the pieces of your fallen empire. Perdiccas, initially wielding the symbols of your authority, your signet ring, and the de facto regency for your mentally incapacitated half-brother. Philip III, Aridaeus, and your unborn son. Alexander IV attempted to maintain the illusion of a unified empire, but Perdiccas, for all his military acumen, lacked your unparalleled charisma and divine aura. He was merely first among equals, and the other powerful generals, each commanding their own loyal armies and vast territories, quickly saw through his attempts to centralize power under his own, more limited, authority. His efforts were doomed from the start, a testament to the singular and irreplaceable nature of your personal rule. The first decisive blow to the dream of a unified empire came from Ptolemy, shrewd, calculating, and with an uncanny ability to read the shifting tides of power. Ptolemy immediately recognized the strategic advantages of Egypt, its immense wealth, its easily defensible borders, and its relative isolation from the land-based power struggles brewing in Asia made it an ideal base from which to carve out an independent kingdom. He orchestrated the audacious diversion of your funeral procession, seizing your body and transporting it to Memphis, then later to the very city you founded, Alexandria. This act was a masterstroke of both propaganda and political maneuvering. By possessing your remains, Ptolemy symbolically claimed your legacy, establishing his independent rule over Egypt and setting a powerful precedent for the other generals to carve out their own domains. This bold, pragmatic move by Ptolemy is a prime example of the ruthless opportunism that defined the struggle for succession, a historical detail that underlines the immediate and irrevocable fracturing of your empire. Meanwhile, in Asia, the formidable Antigonus Monophthalmus the One-Eyed, a general of immense experience and unwavering ambition, began his relentless campaign to reunify your entire empire under his own rule. He was a truly formidable contender, possessing a strong army and an unshakable belief in his own right to rule. For decades, he would be the most powerful and relentless force in the ensuing conflicts, repeatedly attempting to reclaim your scattered dominion. Lysimachus, another of your trusted commanders, shrewdly secured control over Thrace, a wild but strategically important frontier region that served as a buffer between the European and Asian halves of your former dominion. And in Macedon, your homeland, Cassander, the ambitious son of Antipater, your long-serving viceroy in Europe, moved swiftly to secure his control. He viewed your young son, Alexander IV, as an inconvenient and dangerous threat to his burgeoning power, a living symbol of a legitimate claim that undermined his own, the Wars of the Diadochi, a protracted and incredibly brutal series of conflicts, would rage across the vast territories you had conquered for over 4 decades. This wasn't merely a political struggle, it was a devastating military conflict, fought with the very tools and tactics you had perfected. The formidable Macedonian phalanx, the elite companion cavalry, the sophisticated siege engines all were turned inward, used by former comrades against each other. The unity of purpose that once drove them against the Persian Empire dissolved, replaced by a naked struggle for personal dominion. A fight where the ultimate prize was sole control of whatever fragments of your empire they could seize. Consider the countless ordinary people caught in the crossfire of these relentless wars. The cities you had founded, intended as vibrant centers of Hellenic culture and commerce, often became targets of siege and destruction, their populations displaced or enslaved. Trade routes that once hummed with goods and ideas were choked by military movements, banditry, and political instability. Populations that you had liberated from Persian rule now found themselves under the heel of new, equally ruthless, masters, facing fresh waves of exploitation and oppression. The stability you had imposed, however heavy-handed and enforced by your overwhelming military might, was utterly shattered, replaced by a chronic state of warfare and widespread political upheaval. This prolonged period of internecine conflict, a direct and tragic consequence of your death and the ambiguity of your succession, represents the true, brutal human cost of your legacy, a detail often overshadowed by the glory of your conquests. The suffering of countless nameless individuals trapped in this relentless cycle of violence is a grim historical reality that must not be forgotten. The fate of your own family, ironically, serves as the most poignant and brutal testament to the ruthless nature of these power struggles. Your formidable mother, Olympias, a woman of fierce intellect and unyielding will, emerged from her homeland of Epirus, desperately fighting to secure the throne for your young son. Alexander IV, she became a major player in the political intrigues, forming and breaking alliances, and even orchestrating the execution of Philip III, Aridaeus, and his wife. Eurydice, to eliminate any rival claims to the throne. But her own ruthless tactics and her fierce devotion to your legacy ultimately sealed her fate. Cassander, the cold and calculating strategist who had secured Macedon, eventually defeated her forces, captured her, and had her executed in 316 BC. Her death marked the end of a life spent in the shadows of power, driven by a relentless desire to protect her son's interests and uphold his, and her grandson's claim to the throne, the ultimate tragedy. However, would befall your wife, Roxana, and your beloved son, Alexander IV. As the young prince grew, he became an increasingly dangerous symbol, a legitimate rallying point for any faction seeking to challenge the emerging order. Cassander, consolidating his iron grip on Macedon, could not tolerate such a threat to his burgeoning power. Around 310 BC, he arranged for the secret murders of both Roxana and Alexander IV. With their deaths, your direct bloodline was extinguished, and the Argead dynasty, the ancient royal house of Macedon, came to an end. The brutal elimination of your family, especially your innocent young son, is a chilling reminder that in the ruthless game of ancient power, no one, regardless of age or familial connection, was safe from political assassination, particularly when a throne was at stake. Despite the profound political fragmentation and the decades of brutal warfare that followed your death. Your conquests initiated a profound and enduring cultural transformation that would reshape the course of both Western and Middle Eastern history for centuries. This phenomenon, universally known as Hellenization, is perhaps your most significant and lasting legacy, far more permanent than the transient political empire you forged. Greek language, which became the lingua franca of administration, commerce, and intellectual discourse across your former territories, spread far and wide. Greek art, architecture, philosophy, and political institutions were introduced to vast new regions, mingling with local cultures to create unique Hellenistic civilizations. The hundreds of cities you founded, the numerous Alexandrias scattered across Asia and Africa, became vibrant centers of this cultural fusion. Alexandria in Egypt, in particular, blossomed into an intellectual powerhouse, home to the legendary Library of Alexandria, a vast repository of ancient knowledge and a hub for scholars, scientists, and philosophers from across the ancient world. Here, disciplines like mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and literature flourished, synthesizing Greek and Eastern intellectual traditions. This accidental cultural diffusion, a byproduct of your military expansion, led to a period of unprecedented intellectual growth and cross-cultural exchange. It's an often overlooked detail that the very chaos after your death paradoxically created the conditions for this cultural flourishing. As your generals, now kings, invested heavily in these new centers of learning and prestige, seeking to outdo each other in cultural patronage as well as military might. The military innovations you spearheaded, particularly the combined arms tactics, the adaptable Macedonian phalanx, and your meticulous emphasis on logistics continued to influence warfare for centuries. your strategic brilliance, your seemingly impossible marches across vast and hostile terrains, and your unparalleled ability to inspire unyielding loyalty in your troops became subjects of intense study for future generals. From Hannibal to Caesar, and even into modern military academies, your brutal efficiency in battle, the innovative tactics you employed to overcome numerically superior foes, became the gold standard for ambitious military leaders seeking to replicate your astonishing successes. Yet, woven into this magnificent tapestry of glory and unparalleled cultural diffusion is the undeniable, stark thread of your brutal life, the sheer scale of human suffering inflicted during your relentless campaigns, the countless lives lost in battle and through disease, the cities razed to the ground, the forced migrations, and the often harsh imposition of foreign rule. These are also an undeniable part of your story. The immense wealth that flowed into your coffers, and later into the treasuries of the Hellenistic kings, often came at the direct expense of the conquered peoples, who faced exploitation, displacement, and systematic oppression. The brutal efficiency of your conquest, while ensuring your astonishing military success, also left a pervasive trail of immense human misery and societal upheaval that lasted for generations. Your life, though tragically brief at just 32 years, was a furious, dazzling meteor that blazed across the ancient world, forever altering its trajectory. You were a complex figure, a military genius unparalleled in your era, a visionary statesman who dreamed of a unified empire, and a magnetic leader who inspired fierce, almost fanatical loyalty. But you were also ruthless, prone to violent outbursts, consumed by an insatiable ambition, and ultimately left behind an empire that, without your singular command, fractured into decades of devastating civil war. Your name, Alexander the Great, echoes through history not just for your unparalleled triumphs and enduring cultural impact, but for the profound, often brutal, impact you had on the world, leaving a legacy inextricably linked to both magnificent achievement and immense human cost. The echoes of your final words, "To the strongest," continue to resonate, a grim reminder of the enduring, often violent, struggle for power that defines human history.